Fellow Freedom fans, David Allen Carmichael, Preservative Talk Radio. We're back trying to engage these issues on a constitutional basis, a biblical basis, and the basis of right versus wrong. Again, it's a lot of work going through this statute and communicating it to you in such a way that you can track it. It's important. I went to the complaint and I said that the government, the U.S. Department of Justice, is trying to get Tennessee to not stop maiming of children. There's a dysphoria that's happening right now. It's going across America. It's actually global. I have a friend in Vietnam who contacted me. We've been talking, and he says this thing is global. So he's traveling from place to place. He's a professor, and he works at different universities around the world. So he's explaining to me that this is not just in America. This is just like the global pandemic of COVID. There's a global pandemic of dementia. You have been hearing that phrase from me here in Preservative Talk Radio and Nooga-Radio for a long time, many years before it manifested itself in such a way that we see today. But there is a pandemic of dementia, and we should not be codependent to the pandemic of dementia. That's a reality. So I'm still going to read this statute a little bit, and then because there's interesting things that are going to come up. It says nothing in this statute abrogates a minor's right to bring a cause of action against a health care provider or minor's parent pursuant to. So if you continue reading this bill, so I'm up on the section 101 or something like this. So it referenced 104, and so I'm gonna come down to 104, and section 104 gives them a permission to sue. So here we go. Private right of action. As a result of such and such, the minor or the parent of a minor child injured as a result of the violation listed here may bring a civil cause of action to recover compensatory damages. That means if you spend any money mutilating yourself. Punitive damages, that's punishment. So doctor, you need to pay something out of your pocket so you can feel the injury yourself. And reasonable attorney's fees, court costs, and expenses. A minor injured as a result of that violation may bring a civil cause of action pursuant to subdivision such and such. Let's see what else. Oh, so the parents can be sued. The doctor can be sued because the legislature is basically getting a hold of this thing. And this is what I said. I told you earlier that there's possibility that parts of this statute, because I think it could have been done much cleaner, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I've just been spending thousands of hours reading law and seeing why a case is overturned. Why does the appeals court, why does the Supreme Court overturn a ruling, and the rationale and the kind of tests that they apply to see if something is a legitimate statute. So look what it says here. If this subdivision or its application to any person or circumstance is held invalid, then the invalidity does not affect other provisions or applications of this chapter that can be given effect without this subdivision or application, and to that end, this subdivision is severable. So that's the severability clause. So there's no such thing as an insanity clause, but that is a severability clause, so that if anything, again, any part of that statute that is not to be found to be done in accordance with what is considered a legitimate interest of government, and it gets found to be, maybe it could have been written a better way, then the rest of the statute is not thrown out. And there'll be penalties, there'll be prohibitions, so that in Tennessee, you can't mutilate your minor child. Now, one of the things that the government is going to complain about is somebody's being treated equally and things like that. Well, they said they're denying this stuff to people just because they are transgender, because their character, they're identified as this subgroup as a transgender. Actually, no. It's for the sake of, you do not mutilate a child as a consequence or as a treatment for mental dysphoria. Okay, again, I would that they would write a statute prohibiting maiming and surgery and chemical intervention with certain exceptions, and to have a very tightly scrutinized exception. What the government's trying to do is say, hey, there's exceptions here, and the exceptions should be liberally construed or liberally applied. When we read Blackstone, we understood how important from the very beginning as an absolute right that the body is created, it's designed in the image of God. In fact, you know what we do when we see a mutilated genitalia at birth? We don't go, hey, everybody, come over here and look at evolution, because it isn't evolving. The gender unnatural, let's say a congenital defect, is not evolution. In fact, it's evidence that evolution is false. We can all recognize, oh, this thing was designed a particular way. These genes are designed to do a particular thing, and something broke. Things are going from order to chaos. It's the law of entropy and the law of thermodynamics, the laws of nature. Things are going from order to chaos. Things are decaying. You know, you could find that the Bible forecasts that. It explains it to you that that's true. And we can see in nature. So we don't go around and say, look, we're evolving. In fact, this child is this gender dysphoria is part of evolution. It doesn't matter what their physical body says. Somewhere they're evolving, and in their mind is the first thing to change. It's as you think, so you are. That's actually, it's a false or half truth that is a falsehood. It sounds nice. It sounds profound, but as you think, so you are. Well, the Bible says that the heart is desperately wicked. Who could know it? So in revealed law, it explains there's dysphoria going on, folks. And just have to understand that your mind isn't right. So here at Preservative Talk Radio, our goal is to not just give opinion. I'm opinionated. I'm sharing my opinion because I've gathered it up for decades. But what is it based on? It's based on an absolute right versus an absolute wrong. And it's absolutely, let's say it's disheartening that our young people, there's such a strong delusion that's going on. It's being fed to them in the public school. It's being fed to them in social media, including TV, movies, internet, TikTok, whatever it is. So there's this propaganda machine that we've subjected ourselves to, and we all as a society are accountable for this. The complacency and the participation is so we're reaping the fruit of our inappropriate parental or adult behavior. And so it's coming to haunt us. So as I give my wife a lot of credit for her teaching, she has very profound things that hit her. She teaches about sowing seeds, and that you sow a seed and it'll come back in like kind, not evolving. It comes back in like kind, and it comes back a whole lot more than you put in the ground. I think, what is it? You put one corn seed in, you get 500 back per ear of corn, and there might be 5 ears on a stalk. So you got 2,500 seeds come back out of one seed planted. That's the same principle. I'll give you the biblical persuasion here. Sow of the flesh, reap corruption. Sow of the spirit, reap everlasting life. So you sow a seed, you're going to reap it in like kind, many multitudes more, and later. So we do a short-term, let's say short-term convenience I think we have long-term consequence. Short-term sacrifice, long-term reward. That's something you can quote from me. My wife says, you plant a seed, it comes back in like kind in many more times, and it comes at a later date. But it comes at many, it's coming later. Plant it once, comes in like kind later, but multiple. So those are the things we have to think about, is investing our time, our talents, our cares, our subjecting our philosophy, our perspective to the absolutes. It's going to preserve our society. It's going to, and if we would, that's why I say, encourage you to read Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England. The nature of the law in general is what his opening discussion is. So, and that's where he's going to explain law is about rights and about wrongs. And eventually he's going to get to the absolute rights of mankind. And there you're going to discover those laws protected by the Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution and in the Tennessee Constitution. So you'll have an opportunity to discover what are those reserved rights that are unalienable, that we have to hold the government accountable to, that the Supreme Courts of the state of Tennessee and of the United States are duty-bound and mission-bound to uphold those rights to be absolute and absolutely unalienable, absolutely protected, and that any statute that would abrogate those rights is a statute doing wrong. It is void from its inception, and anybody police power of the executive that would try to enforce the statute should be held back, in fact, punished if you're injured by their executing an unlawful act of the legislature. So we talk about that a lot, and you're going to be hearing my special broadcast on where I said it was my favorite radio show ever. And it's about the Alpha 10 Juliet stop. What should we do when somebody stops us to incriminate us? So it sounds almost like anti-government, but it's actually, in reality, it's very pro-government. What is our government supposed to be doing? It's supposed to be protecting and enabling parents to protect their minor children, but but it's not. And somebody said, I mentioned Robert Barnes, who is a Tennessean. And his thing, he likes the autonomy of parents and children to make a decision, except, folks, when it comes down to dysphoria, neither the parent's dysphoria or the child's dysphoria should make the child or the parent or us, the society, codependent to the lunacy. So we have an absolute right to protect that which is naturally right. And that's my encouragement to you. Think about it. It's not, people have feelings right now. Well, their feelings are completely disconnected from reality. They're disconnected from nature. They're disconnected from science. And they're disconnected. Ultimately, this is fruit from being disconnected from our Creator. And so you reap what you sow. So my encouragement is to know what you're doing, what you believe, why you believe it. And my encouragement is that you would believe it on a constitutional basis, even more so a biblical basis, and the basis of right versus wrong. One of the things about the Bible, and even Blackstone mentioned it, there's so many things about law that are already revealed there in the Bible. And the other things society determines, that makes sense for what's good for society. And there's other things that are, our reasoning. Our reasoning comes to a point where we decide there's something that's not spelled out in the Bible per se or whatever, and we have to enact a law because of reason. But God gave the reason for survival. The first law of thermodynamics, the law of conservation. Our Heavenly Father is built in us a propensity to do that which is survival. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Steal your body parts and destroy your body parts and kill ultimately your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and everything about you. Jesus has come that you'd have life and have it more abundantly.